Hi, this is Stephen Beal making another video of my practice and working with Dystonia. If you saw my first video, you can now see my face this time. My apologies for the last one where I had my head cut off. Before I say anything else, I also wanted to say, give a personal note. I am a Christian. I go to a Reformed Baptist church, and I do believe that the gospel is real, that God is real, the Bible is true. Jesus Christ came and saved sinners from their sins. If it were just a matter of my own personal opinion, if it was just my own personal belief, it wouldn't really be relevant to anyone else. But if it is true across the board, if it's universally true, it's something that I hope that you will think about and pray about and read about and research about. So, I will go on here with some more practice. I'm going to choose a different piece this time. I'll choose one that's fairly simple, that doesn't really affect me all that much. But the Dystonia does still affect me though. So I definitely have a much easier time playing slower melodies because obviously the notes don't move around as much, so therefore my fingers don't have to react as much to the notes moving. But I will start. This is Shostakovich Fifth Symphony, the first movement, and I will play this viola solo and then discuss some of the things that I'm working with. I did a lot of practice on this last part because it's the last part that really does affect me. Every time I have that second finger, the third finger wants to go down. This one I just refingered it, so it's 2, 4, 3. That third finger doesn't want to release. Going down the first finger. So I'm going to go back to the middle of the excerpt. So the first time I did a different fingering, which doesn't give me as good vibrato because I'm doing 4 things. The second fingering I did this. But the problem is when I get to that F natural, this one, this third finger wants to go like that. Wants to pluck the string. So at this point, I just have to kind of let it get around the string so it doesn't pluck it. But hopefully someday it's just going to stay up like it just did that time. That was good. So I'm going back to the beginning of the excerpt here. Now, one good thing about the person that I worked with who helped me to overcome dystonia, she really gave me a wonderful focus on listening for notes. And because of that, my shifting is pretty reliable. No matter how big the shift is, because I'm simply listening for the note, my finger will find it. Now, the focus is not always there. And sometimes, when I played the excerpt the first time, there were a few notes and a few shifts that are out of tune. But I know how to focus to get the shifts in tune. Now, one thing I learned from my viola professor, where I did my doctorate, was she's really big into coordination. And so on that first note, you know, if this area is hard, this is the sound that I get. But if I'm thinking of this whole area resonating with sound, and which is a little bit different from thinking of the muscles softening. If I think of this area resonating with sound, the beginning was definitely had a more resonant tone. I don't know if you could hear it on the video. But so this excerpt is one of the easier ones for me. If they ask for it on the audition, then I'm going to be in good shape. Let's go to one of the excerpts that is the hardest for me. And that is the Mendelssohn Midsummer Night's Dream. Part of the reason that this excerpt is so difficult for me is because it has descending scales. And descending scales, more than anything else, is what really trips up my fingers. You know, on the 5-finger scale it's fine, but when I have you know, the fingers just don't want to lift evenly on the way down. And I can't play them as easily as I used to be able to. And so when I have something like this, it's a mess. It's an absolute mess. Because I just can't coordinate the bow and the fingers just don't want to lift. So at this point I can practice it slowly. If you know, my spiccato is another issue. It wasn't the greatest there either. But if I'm practicing spiccato, what I do is that I think of the string causing the bow to bounce. Rather than trying to over control with my hand or think of moving the wrist, I just simply feel the string and let the string bounce the bow and just have a good flow. And what I haven't quite done here is to get the attack to really be more even on all the notes. Right now it's very uneven. There are some notes that speak well, there's some notes that don't. Again, if I think of resonating, not only just the instrument but also even myself, then the instrument resonates better on the spiccato. Of course, the string crossings present the challenges. You know, so I can always practice with open strings, and that does help a little bit. I used to do that a lot. One time I was in a hospital for a while, and so they had an IV in one arm, so I practiced with just open strings with the other arm when I was recovering. So I can always do that. But as far as trying to overcome dystonia with this excerpt, you know, I'll have to practice on the strings slowly at first, because obviously you can't replicate a slow spiccato stroke. So even on that first note, again, I mentioned on the last video that when I start something with energy, because the arms are mirroring each other, it tends to trigger the third finger to pull just a little bit on that first note. And of course it's marked pianissimo, so I don't have to have that much energy, but I still want to have a good attack. Again, if I'm playing two notes, there's no sequence there, so that it doesn't trigger the finger as much. But when I know I'm going to be playing, then immediately that third finger kind of wigs out, because it knows, because my hand knows that I have a sequence coming up with all three of these fingers somehow. I don't know exactly how best to explain this, but because of the sequence, it's something about the sequencing, the future sequencing of the fingers, that seems to trigger the dystonia. And that's something that if any of you are researching dystonia, I hope that you'll pick up on, and maybe you already have some information you can share with me about this, because I would love to hear it. Part of the reason I'm making this video is because I'm searching for answers. And if anyone else is searching for answers, or if anyone has answers, I may have some answers that you don't have, and you might have some answers that I don't have. So I'm hoping that we can collaborate here just a little bit. So I'm going to go back to practicing on the strings slowly here. I'm just going to do those 4 measures. So one thing, and I haven't named the person yet who's, because I haven't gotten her permission, but the person to help me with my dystonia, one thing that she talked about was focusing on the length of the string. Again, this is an outward focus of attention. Instead of focusing on something inward like your hands or your arms, you're focusing on the string, the length of the string, the sound of the string, the feel of the string, the pitch that you want to hear. If you were a wind player, it would be the airflow, focusing on the air. So in this case, I'm focusing on the length of the string. So obviously it's this long when I play the G, and this long when I play the F, and this long when I play the E flat. So I'm thinking of the length of the string and how it changes, instead of my fingers. Everything's pretty good except the third finger notes. The third finger notes are not coming out very clearly. But the second and first finger are okay. In talking about the length of the string, the person who helped me with my dystonia, as I shall refer to it, gave me a very novel way to practice, and that was using just one finger. It sounds like something you would do just to fool around in class, but in this case it's actually very effective, because in order to listen for the note to be clear while playing first finger, you really have to focus, because it's not easy to do, obviously. That F natural was out of tune, so I'm listening for it again. The G was out of tune that time. Now, the amazing thing that happens is that when I practice with one finger, and then I go back to practicing with the regular fingering, it's better, and it works. It definitely works. It doesn't work as effectively as it used to, but it definitely always works to some degree. So that is something that I've found that works. So, you know, I could do this whole passes like that. The only thing is that I lose focus because I'm trying to do too much at once. But, you know, if I do this passage, this measure, and then, you know, change it up a different finger with a different finger, it's amazing what happens, because it reveals when I'm really having trouble finding the pitch. Those tend to be the very same measures that my fingers react the most when I'm playing with the regular fingering. And then when I get the pitch secure with the one finger, then it makes a marked improvement when I'm playing with the regular fingering. played it. So that's one thing that helps to some degree, but I'm not there yet. I can't play this piece at the tempo it needs to be played with the clean sound that it needs, and the clarity that it needs, the resonance that it needs, the stroke that it needs, the phrasing that it needs. I'm so very far away from that at this point. Let me go back and practice it with the regular fingering, but slow on the string. I'll stop there. And part of the problem is because if I don't play, if you don't practice enough, then then your instrument doesn't respond that well. The more I practice, the more these, the notes in the higher positions are going to respond more normally. I just had my sound post adjusted yesterday, and so and there's no open seams. I had those fixed last week, so that it should be in good shape. The instrument itself should be in good shape. The sound post, I think, was designed so that the higher strings would respond better, because my viola used to be that the lower strings would respond very well, and the A string didn't sound very good. Now the A string sounds pretty good, and the other strings don't respond quite as readily as they used to. But again, if you feel the string and feel the instrument resonate, and think of the string moving the bow, then it does help it. It does help it. So, let me go back. I'm going to go from... and that third finger on the E natural when I just shift the third position is a problem. So one thing that Joaquin Farias said when I was with him the week in Toronto, he had me do an exercise where I had to put my third finger, my ring finger, up like this and just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you would be able to, I guess in a sense, control how your finger was moving so that it wouldn't just automatically be out of control and just go down. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, down. And then it's the same thing again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, down. The thing that confused me about that was because it seemed like it was the opposite from the other lady who was helping me with Dystonia. What she said is that you can focus on the fingers at all. Well, obviously this exercise tells you to focus on your fingers. So it seemed contradictory to me, but I can see how they both help. I just don't know how quite to put them together. And after this many years, I still don't know how to put them together. So I'm still trying to figure that out. Maybe there's a way you can maybe compartmentalize them, or just do them at different times. Just do this as an exercise, and then when you practice, you actually just focus on only the outward focus of attention. Not sure about that. If you have any comments, feel free to make them. I'm going to go back to that measure here. That time I was focusing more on just the pitch that I wanted to hear, and the fingers did not react as much, which was good. That time I was thinking more about what I just did, which means that I wasn't focusing in the right place, and the fingers did react this time. That was good. not so good. That was better. That was pretty good. Good. That was 3 times in a row. That's a good benchmark. Let me go back now. And one thing that I was testing there was, again, sequencing. Our brains think in sequences. So it's one thing to start here and play that by itself. It's another thing to play the whole sequence of this. Where your brain is already thinking from before, and so it kind of messes up the sequence when you only start here. And I've known this ever since I was little, practicing trying to put things together. There's something that happens when you think you've got it when you play just those measures by itself, and then you add it to the part before, and the challenge is to maintain what you just did without losing it when you add the part from before to it. And that would always be a challenge, and sometimes I would get very frustrated, and sometimes I'd be able to overcome it. And I think that's a huge, important step of practicing in general. To me, that's practicing 101. That's how I teach my students to practice. So I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do this part again. Fingers are okay, but the sound is not good. So let's see if I can get a better sound. That was better. That was better. Not quite so good. The sound wasn't good, but the fingers are okay. We'll listen for that C and the E in the middle of the measure. Now I'm going to listen for the D as well. And again, the ear should be able to hear things more quickly, because we can hear anything that happens. There's nothing that we can't hear as it's happening, no matter how fast it is. So we have to listen ahead for what we want to hear. That was a good one. That was decent. I'm going to go back. I'm going to do this part again because I can really tell my fingers are wigging out. I was saying in the last video that when I have something with high third finger, it really triggers the dystonia. But the same thing happens when I have, like, anytime that I have half or whole steps between second and third fingers, or when I have like an E flat major scale, the same problem happens because there's so much space there. If it's closer together, it doesn't trigger it as much, but if it's a whole step, it triggers it a lot more easily. So I'm going to go back and play. And I'm focusing on the length of the string, focusing on feeling the string with my bow. This time I'm going to focus on letting the bow move the string move the bow, that is. The string move the bow. That means that I'm thinking of the string as like, as if it has rollers on it that cause the bow to move, rather than my arm moving the bow, which logically looks like that's what's happening. If I focus on feeling the string move the bow, this is what it feels like. I don't know if it looks any different to you or not, but it feels different to me. Now, if I try to do it faster where the bow is actually bouncing a little bit, well, I'm not there yet, so again, I'm still looking for answers. So yeah, I'll stop the video here. I think that's probably long enough, but it gives you a taste of particularly this excerpt is just the one that's given me the most problems. And again, it's because of all those descending scales and just the spiccato. And I've long had a hard time with spiccato. My spiccato has actually gotten better, even as my left hand has gotten worse. My spiccato has gotten better, and I think if I can get the left hand working, then I can get the spiccato working now too. But we shall see. If you have any comments, if you have any suggestions, observations, please feel free to leave them down below. Thank you.